everyone, I'm Seth Stewart with Spoken Gospel, and today's verse is Galatians 1:10, which says, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ." Paul has just started his letter to the Galatian church, and he is mad. The Galatians are abandoning the gospel of Jesus. Instead of believing that Jesus had done everything to give them access to God's presence and include them in his kingdom, the Galatians said what Jesus did was not enough. They perverted the gospel away from something that God did for them into something that they could earn for themselves. Specifically, they believed that in order to really be a part of God's people, anyone who had not been circumcised needed to be. Now, this made a certain kind of sense if you grew up Jewish. Circumcision was the sign, the symbol that you belonged to God's people. But if you were not Jewish, this practice didn't just not make sense. It undermined the very gospel that Paul preached. Religious performance is not the reason we are included in God's kingdom. Faith in Jesus is. To think even one cultural practice earned us a place in God's people nullifies the gospel. Right before this verse, Paul curses anyone who dares to try it. Paul isn't interested in gaining the approval of a Jewish contingent in the Galatian church. He's not interested in pleasing our human pride that wants to say we contributed to our place in God's kingdom. The moment Paul tries to please people's egos by saying their cultural practices are part of the equation that gets God to accept us is the moment Paul stops being a servant of Jesus. Most importantly and fundamentally, this verse is about refusing the mindset that says if our good works outweigh our bad, that's what gets us into the good place. The gospel has no room for ego-stroking, people-pleasing works. What pleases God is that we are saved by grace alone and not by what we do.